In an old dusty house, hidden in the attic among forgotten boxes, lived a porcelain doll with piercing eyes and a sinister smile. Her name was Esmeralda, and she harbored a dark secret, a curse that had haunted the family for generations. The story begins with Eduardo, a young man who inherited the house and the cursed doll. Since childhood, he had heard stories about Esmeralda, whispers of tragedies and macabre events that surrounded her presence. Intrigued and skeptical, Eduardo decides to investigate the doll's curse. While searching the attic, he finds an old diary that belonged to his great-grandmother. The pages, yellowed by time, told the story of a young girl who, while playing with Esmeralda, was cursed with a mysterious illness. From that day on, a series of tragic and inexplicable events plagued the family, leading to the premature deaths of several members. Eduardo, overcome by fear and guilt, decides to get rid of the doll. He takes her to a distant location and buries her in a macabre ritual, hoping to break the curse. But Esmeralda doesn't give in easily. Night after night, Eduardo is tormented by nightmares and ghostly appearances of the doll. Icy whispers echo in your ears, and objects move on their own in your home. The curse manifests itself in increasingly intense ways, threatening his sanity and the lives of those around him. Amid despair, Eduardo seeks help from a paranormal expert, who guides him on a journey to uncover the doll's secrets and find a way to break the curse. They discover that Esmeralda was cursed by a satanic ritual carried out by her former owner, a cruel man obsessed with black magic. To get rid of the curse, Eduardo needs to find the place where the ritual was performed and destroy the cursed object that Esmeralda carries inside her. The journey takes him to dark and dangerous places, where he faces his own fears and the evil forces that surround him. In a final confrontation with the doll, Eduardo manages to destroy the cursed object, freeing himself and his family from the curse that has haunted them for generations. Esmeralda, finally at peace, disintegrates into dust, leaving only the memory of a dark past and the promise of a future free from terror. Eduardo thought that burying Esmeralda was the end of the nightmare. Days passed without incident. But peace was just an illusion. One night, awakened by a disturbing sound, he saw in the corner of his room a pale glow emanating from the attic. He went up the stairs gritting his teeth. The attic door was open. As he entered, a cold air hit him. Dust danced in the moonlight that came through a crack. In the center of the room, the upturned earth revealed a fresh hole. And on top of him, intact, was Esmeralda. Eduardo let out a strangled scream. The doll stared at him, its black eyes blazing. He staggered back, tripping over old boxes. Sanity seemed to slip through his fingers. Suddenly, her great-grandmother's voice echoed in her mind. Esmeralda is hungry, hungry for innocent souls. A chill ran down his spine. The doll slid across the floor, without any sudden movement, as if it were floating. Eduardo ran frantically towards the stairs, but the attic door slammed shut, locking him inside. Useless screams echoed. Tears streamed down her face as Esmeralda approached. The evil smile seemed to widen. Suddenly the doll stopped, head tilted. A horrible sound filled the attic, the crying of a child. Eduardo froze. The sound came from inside Esmeralda. He looked at the doll, the pristine china shaking slightly. A tear appeared on the side of the doll's skull, growing rapidly. From inside, a childish eye stared at Eduardo, full of terror and pain. A swarm of black insects burst from the tear, buzzing furiously. Eduardo tried to cover his mouth and nose, but it was too late. The insects got into his ears, nose and mouth. Agonizing screams mixed with the crying of the child inside the doll. His vision became blurred. The last thing he saw was Esmeralda's sadistic smile and the desperate look of the child trapped inside her. The attic was silent. Only the buzzing of the insects echoed, along with the gentle rocking of the beautiful porcelain doll, now with a terrible secret kept inside. The attic became a silent tomb. Dust danced in the moonlight, now dyed red with Eduardo's blood. The Esmeralda doll, serene and implacable, observed the scene with her black eyes. From inside the doll, the child's cries turned into a guttural moan, a wail of pain and anguish. The tear in the skull expanded, revealing a dark, pulsating mass, like a rotting heart. Purple tentacles sprouted from the mass, writhing in the air like hungry snakes. In the house, a dead silence reigned. Eduardo's family, asleep, ignored the horror that was unfolding in the attic. Days turned into weeks. The nauseating stench emanating from the attic spread throughout the house, permeating every room. The family, taken by a mysterious illness, wasted away day after day. Her eyes, once full of life, were now empty and opaque, like those of porcelain dolls. In the city, the news spread like wildfire. A curse had befallen the family. Whispers of witchcraft and demonic possession echoed through the streets. A group of brave people, led by Father Miguel, a man of unshakable faith, decided to investigate the cursed house. Upon entering, they were greeted by the nauseating stench and the macabre sight of the family, petrified on their sofas, their faces frozen in expressions of terror. Climbing the stairs, the group found the attic locked by an invisible force. Father Miguel, armed with a crucifix, recited exorcism prayers. The wood of the door creaked and shook, but it did not yield. Suddenly, a guttural, rumbling sound erupted from inside the attic. The walls shook and the house seemed to succumb to the fury of an evil entity. With one last scream of horror, the attic door exploded into 1,000 pieces. The brave were faced with an unimaginable horror. Esmeralda, now a grotesque monster with purple tentacles and flaming eyes, dominated the environment. The battle was epic. Father Miguel, with unshakable faith, brandished the crucifix, while the others tried to contain the creature's fury with improvised weapons. The attic became a bloody battlefield, where faith clashed with terror. In the end, after a heroic sacrifice, Father Miguel managed to exorcise the evil entity, imprisoning it once again inside the doll. Esmeralda, now reduced to an inert figurine, was sealed in an iron chest and buried in a secret location, far from any living soul. The house was purified and the family, freed from the curse, returned to live. But the memory of the horror would never be erased from their hearts. The story of the cursed doll has become a macabre legend, an ominous warning about the dangers that lurk in the shadows and whispers of the unknown.